How's your day going so far? It's evening for you. It's quite late for you.
Well, it's 11 p.m. It's been a long, hectic, and it's never-ending day right now.
Oh, what's going on?
I'm on the publicity tour, right? So we've been in 3 cities from this morning. So I was in a place called Cochin, which is the south of India. Then we moved to Mumbai, and then now we are here.
Okay.
Can you see me at all?
No, I lost you for a second. I thought I did something wrong.
What happened?
No, I think I got a call.
Okay.
Alim?
There we go. Well, I guess we'll just jump right into it if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So from the outside, it seems like such a trip that you're doing the same scene in 2 different languages. We're talking about Rocketry, by the way.
Yeah.
We're talking to the audience. We're talking about Rocketry, by the way. It comes out July 1st. Okay, so you're doing it 3 different languages, but we looked at 2 of the trailers, and it seems like such a trip that you're doing the same scene work with 2 powerhouse actors from completely different regions, but it's the exact same scene. For you, is it as trippy for you as it looks to us from the outside?
No, it isn't trippy for me at all. It is, even each actor has to say the line first in English or the language that he's comfortable with, and then he has to say it in Hindi and then Tamil. The 3 languages that the film has been shot in. So for me, it was just trying to recreate and make sure that the reality of the scene is maintained. So even though I was in the scene myself while we were shooting it, right? So it was a double-pronged attack because I had to make sure I was performing and I was also make sure that the scene was looking right. And it was done in 3 languages. So it was anything but trippy. It was frightening. It was horrifying. It was nerve-wracking. And, you questioned yourself at every move and in every turn. But at the end of the day, it's done now. So we'll just see how the outcome is.
I guess for me, whenever I'm performing, there's always something a little bit different in each take, right? Is it hard to keep it kind of consistent throughout in all the different languages? Or will it be kind of like watching a slightly different movie if you watch it in all 3 languages?
I dare say that there'll be the feel in 3 different languages will be different.
Okay.
Because of the nativity of it. And I saw your review of the trailer, and I just wanted to say that for some strange reason, English is the most natural language for this film.
Oh.
Because the rocket scientists in India, the language that they speak in is in English, inside ISRO.
Okay.
Most of India communicates to each other in English. This rocket scientist studied in Princeton and France and Russia and Scotland. So the most natural language for this film was English. We had to make it in Hindi because that is the language the whole country will consume it largely.
Right.
But that's not the language that either is spoken extensively inside ISRO, the Space Research Organization, or in the countries that they were in.
Yeah.
And finally in Tamil, because he's actually a Tamilian. Dr. Nambi Narayanan is a Tamilian. Okay. He belongs to that part of the world. So the story resonates in that language.
Okay.
But you were right. As a performer, when you're trying to recreate it 3 different times, and every time it's going to be slightly different.
Right.
But, thankfully, and I'm not so sure it'll work with every film, thankfully I was doing a biopic.
Yeah.
And the tracks are set. The script has been written by life already. I just have to make sure I capture the reality of the scene instead of having people improvise the shot.
Right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't need people to find a character. If it's been there, it's well defined. It's there for you to see how well you can ape it so that I can get the reality out there. I'm not testing one's ability to act or improvise or get into character as long as you are the person, because they have the examples right in front of them. They have said those lines in their lives before.
Right.
And unlike most biopics where you have to add a little bit of cinematic liberty to make it palatable as cinema, believe me guys, in this story I had to take out facts to make it believable. I mean, if I had kept everything about him intact, you would have been laughing away because there was no way you would believe me. But they say fact is stranger than fiction, and if this story is anything to go by, it just testifies that to the ultimate end.
Growing up, did you have a personal interest in astrophysics and space?
I was technically inclined and engineeringly inclined.
Okay.
From when I was a kid. My father is an engineer, and so I studied it. And but more than that, I've always fascinated in trying to find solutions which are, mechanical or engineering solutions to things that, I consider a problem. So if there was a bike that I was riding, or if there was a car that I was modifying, always up to it. So aerospace technology is, of course, the father of all all engineering, in my opinion.
Okay.
Although I didn't actually actively participate in anything that had to do with aerospace, I was just fascinated to meet Dr. Nambi Narayanan. You don't meet a rocket scientist every other day.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, what was the pressure like to write a story about someone who's not only a real person, but who's still alive and who I believe also consulted on the movie, right? What was that like?
So if you were to make a biopic on, let us say, an MMA fighter or a guitar player or a singer or an actor or a dancer, it's easy to depict what they do well on screen. So if I'm showing a runner or a guitarist, I mean, you can hear him play and sing and you know, oh yeah, that guy does look like he's a genius at it. How do you show what a rocket scientist does? How do you show what a good rocket scientist does? And in this case, how do you differentiate between a good and a genius of a rocket scientist? Right. So for that, I really had to understand the engine that was developed by Dr. Nambi Narayanan. Wow. You know, what did he actually do to get the Padma Bhushan, the third highest civilian award in this country? Why did they give it to him? And that is because of his achievement. His achievement is that he built a liquid fuel engine, which is completely indigenous, built in India. And the beauty of that engine is it never failed. In the 70 odd missions that we've had, the satellites might have failed, the missions on its whole might have failed, but the launch and the engine has never failed. It's been the workhorse of ISRO, and nobody in the country knows about it. Nobody knows about Dr. Nambi Narayanan. So for me to understand the language and understand the technology, and the writing challenge, like you asked, was that how do you make this, his achievement of his, understood by the common man who's going to come and see the film and might not really care or know about rocket science? How do you make him feel that he knows a little more about rocket science and understand Dr. Nambi Narayan's achievement when he dives further into the film? That was a writing challenge that kept me up many, many nights. And eventually, I decided to balance out the scenes in a manner in which people who know the technology, like people who are aware of the liquid propulsion system, will not cringe with the kind of scenes I've written.
Right.
And yet, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
but technically right up there. You can't find fault with this because Dr. Nambi Narayanan was with me. And so on that front, I'm very confident. In fact, I run the risk of people not understanding what I'm saying, but I do think they will get the impact of his achievement with the way the scene has been written, as opposed to completely understanding it.
Speaking of impact, do you have any specific hopes of how Rocketry will impact Indians, both grown-ups and children?
Yes. The thing is, when you see a film called Interstellar or Inception or, The First Man or even if it's Steve Jobs, you imagine a nation with those extraordinary people, and you imagine that that's how America is, and that's how the Americans are, and that's how good they are, and they're capable of. And true enough, that could be factual. But the thing is, we have the exact same people in India. Right. I don't know if you know, but we managed to do the Mars mission. That is, send a satellite to Mars, and the very first attempt with Dr. Nambi Narayan's engine, and his son-in-law was the mission director in that. And the other countries have tried that for 25 times, 27 times, spent more than $900 million, whereas India managed it the very first attempt at a fraction of a cost of a Hollywood film. Yeah. Forget about aerospace expenditure, and that is done because of the engine and the indigenous technology that we have, right? And if it had been America, they would have made a fantastic film on it.
Yeah.
But we did.
Yeah.
Okay. And the reason we didn't is because I don't think many directors and storytellers and scriptwriters actually bother to pursue the technological achievements of India. Guys, here's what I'm saying. Top Fortune 500 companies in the world, if you take the top 20, 14 of them are CEOs from India. There's something to be said about what is happening. It can't just be sheer coincidence, right? When do we make movies like Steve Jobs about a Sundar Pichai or a Satya Nadella or any one of these guys who are heading the top IT firms or the technology firms that are there in the country? And I think you need that kind of education. You need to be inclined technically to understand what they have done to depict it to the audiences. And I'm hoping Rocketry will do that.
I was watching a documentary from Bloomberg recently. It's a short, 30-minute video regarding ISRO and all that. And, in America, less than 1% of our budget is dedicated to NASA. And I see that India sort of has the same struggle, if that's any way to put it. Just out of sheer curiosity, because you're there in the front lines, you can see what all this looks like. What do you think India could do with a massive space budget if they were given way more?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So you do. I'm an actor, so I'm going to do my best to speak like a scientist. India has an extraordinary advantage in terms of launching. rockets into space. We're in the tropical, subtropical area, equatorial area. So the efficiency of the launch, and this is in Dr. Nambi Narayan's words, the efficiency of the launch is increased by 30% when you launch from India.
Okay.
Because the gravitational pull and the time taken to reach the outer space is much lesser.
Okay.
Now, when you have a rocket which weighs 600 tons, compared to that, your payload is in grams.
Okay.
So, a 600-ton engine will take a 433 kilos and 73 grams.
Okay.
And it can't become 74 grams. It can't become 75.
Right.
It'll affect the stability of the rocket.
Right.
So, under those circumstances, can you imagine what a 30% increment means? Right? So we're already at a huge advantage in terms of the launch, of the geography of the place.
Yeah.
Okay. And then getting to the geostationary orbits from this country is far easier.
Okay.
And with a larger budget, there is so much possibility that can happen. And I'm telling you this, guys, that we're looking at space travel rather underwhelmingly right now, because I think it's going to happen. And you and I will probably be able to travel to space within this one lifetime.
Yeah.
And they're looking at, and I'm privy to technology that is actually mind blowing.
Yeah.
They're looking at mining moon and actually colonizing Mars, and it's not a pipe dream anymore.
Right.
And so I have a favorite saying: countries that used to rule the earth earlier on were the bosses at one point of time. Then the ones that conquered the sea became the rulers of the earth.
Right.
And finally, the ones who conquered the sky were the most powerful nations on earth.
Right.
The final frontier is space.
Right.
Yeah.
Those who have control over space will have control over everything that is below and above.
That's true.
And so it's an important race for India to fight.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I'm going to take a different track now and just ask you, you wore a lot of hats in this movie, right? You were acting, you were directing, you were producing. What was the most challenging thing for you to do? I
wrote it because I didn't find anybody else I could trust with the technology and who would even care to write or research about it. Okay. I acted in it because every actor wants to do this once in a lifetime sort of a role where you get to depict somebody from when you're 29 till up to when you're 79. It's every actor's dream to do that. The uniqueness about this particular film is that unlike any other film that I've ever heard or known, all the 6 scientists, we did not use any prosthetics to show our age. All the hair you see, the beard you see is original. There's no stuck-on beard, no put-on weight, no paddings, nothing.
Wow.
It is all real. So I had to sit on the chair to get my hair dyed for 14 hours a day to make it look like that silver thing. And I used to conduct my office with my hair being taken care of. The reason I did that, guys, was because the film that I'm telling you, like I said, it's absolutely true. Everything you see is absolutely true. And if you were to see a scene in which somebody is wearing a false mustache or a beard or a padding that you can make out as false, then you start questioning everything about the film.
Right.
So to maintain that authenticity is what I had to do. But coming back to your question, and so I did that because, and as an actor, that's very exciting. And when I took the story to producers and funders, they wanted to know how many songs I had and how many fights there were and who the heroine was.
Right.
And so I said, there are no fights and no songs.
Right.
That you're expecting, and then they said you have no producer. So eventually I had to produce it myself.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Which is where I put my money where my mouth is.
Wow.
But the last thing I was expecting to do was direct it. It's simply because that I've never directed an iPhone film in my life, guys. I mean, I'm an actor. I go to the set, I get into character, I do my role, I come back when there is pack up and take my money, put it on the bank, and then pretend to be really nervous during the release, and I'm done.
Yeah.
This is not that. Being a producer or a director is just a vastly different job.
Right.
And so when my director dropped out at the last minute, the choice was either drop the film or take the plunge. And Nambi Narayanan, the guy who was a scientist, he believed that I could direct the film. And my funders were more than happy to let me, they were very keen that I direct the film because they said, you've written it, you understand the soul, you know the man.
Yeah.
How wrong can you go? And I didn't know. On the first day of my shoot, I felt so naked. I had said yes with a bravado that I didn't expect to go away when I was on the first day of shoot.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at this Herculean task of doing this film in 3 languages, 8 countries, no prosthetics, showing a rocket engine that has never been shown on screen before, that kind of challenges.
Right.
And I remember getting a call from a friend of mine, and he said, if you look at the entire picture, you're never going to get started. It's too Herculean. So why don't you just take that first shot, Put your camera and take that one shot. And just make sure you've got that one shot and see what happens.
Yeah.
And it's one shot at a time.
Yeah.
That's managed to get me here right now.
Wow. That's amazing.
Wow, yeah, that's so incredible.
I mean, it's one thing to do a film, like write and direct and act in it, but then to have to do that in 3 languages at the same time, that's insane. I can't even imagine how hard that must have been. Earlier, you were talking about artistic licensing and, creative choices and like things being taken out of the story. How much was removed, how much was adjusted to help facilitate telling this story, like to help make it a cohesive narrative?
The only compromises we've made or liberties we've taken is to maybe make 3 characters into one and jump timeline.
Okay.
But apart from that, the incidences shown, the things that happen are as factually accurate as possible, including the way the engine looks when it starts or burns. For example, we have many firsts in this film. Like I said, there's no prosthetics. There are 3 languages. Another first in this film is the fact that you would have seen a lot of films about rocket science where you see a lot of rockets take off or satellites or space. But I dare say you wouldn't have seen a film where you actually see a rocket engine and how it works.
Right.
And did you know that a rocket engine looks like a piece of beautiful diamond jewelry? It's perfect in every sense. It's shiny. There isn't a speck of dust on it because it needs to be that pure for it to be function efficiently, or else it'll create a problem with the stability of the engine.
Right.
And when it turns on, it's the loudest noise ever heard by man.
Wow.
Man has never heard a louder noise than a rocket engine.
Wow.
When it's muffled inside a rocket body, it's different. Right. And there are 4 thrusters, it's different. But you take a rocket engine right off. Like if you're a motorcycle guy, you'll know that if you take an engine out of the bike, it sounds brutally louder than it does when it's got a silencer on.
Right.
So that is exactly how a rocket engine sounds. So doing all that was, it was the first time for me. So there was no scope for me to add anything more in terms of cinematic liberty. This guy's story was, in fact, like I was telling you, I had to pull out a lot of facts for you to believe that this is a story that's possible.
Have you been able to show the film to any scientists yet, besides the one it's based on?
Yes.
What?
To scientists in America, to NASA scientists as well.
Oh, wow.
How was the response?
All they said was they haven't seen a more accurate depiction of a rocket engine in any film of that they've ever seen.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
That was good, bro.
That's very, very high praise.
Yeah, they noticed the color of the smoke as the engine shuts off and how the exhaust looks as opposed to the thrusters and how it was designed. It's Dr. Nambi Narayanan. He made that engine. So he was sitting there looking at every frame and saying, yes, no, bullshit. Everything. And we had, make it work.
That's incredible. You were talking about how, you weren't using prosthetics and everything, which is so cool. And obviously you had to go through a physical transformation in order to play Dr. Nambi in the different phases of his life. And I heard that Aamir Khan actually gave you some advice on that and suggested that you gain the weight first and then lose the weight after. What was that process like, and what was easier for you, gaining, losing?
You must understand that we are trying to finish a film in 3 languages, and we didn't have 7-8 months like Mr. Aamir Khan has to lose or gain weight, because that would throw the budget of the film completely out of orbit. Okay,
right.
It's okay for one guy to do that,
right,
but there are 8 of us.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And if one of them missed a step, then we're screwed, because you can't come back 6 months later with 6 guys looking thinner and the other guy not having made it at all.
Right.
And we couldn't take chances like that. So I had to do a lot of research. So Aamir Khan had once said it's better to lose weight as you're doing the film as opposed to be stuck with a fat body at the end of the film, because you'll never lose weight after that. That was his theory, and I think it made sense. But for us, it's not just the weight. You must remember that Nambi Narayanan had a beautiful set of hair. He looked very handsome when he was young. He looked like a young John F. Kennedy when he was in Princeton. And from there, the auburn hair and everything, we had to maintain the continuity of the hair without having to make it look like we're jumping looks.
Right.
So I had to do a lot of research. One of the things we did was we knew that the key was not in losing the weight, but the way we put on the weight. And so I did a test. We did a research, and we got a thing called applied kinesiology, which actually tells you that at any given point of time, because of your mental state and your stress, because of either your personal relationships or your professional, your body develops an intolerance to a certain type of food for no rhyme or reason.
Oh.
Okay, so you suddenly could, for a period of time, become intolerant to gluten or lactose or beetroots or yogurt or protein or whatever.
Yeah.
And it just gives you, you're not necessarily allergic. It's not like your life is in threat, but for no reason, you'll just realize that you're just putting on weight or you're not able to get up with as much freshness in the morning. So I did that kinesiology test and I found out that I was allergic to milk and the protein and the sugar in the protein of the milk. So basically the doctor said, don't have that. That's the one that's going to be poison for you. So for 3 months before the shoot, I only had that. I only had cake.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah. So more than putting on weight, what my body did was to protect itself. It put on water. So it was so there was a lot of bloat. So the only thing that didn't look heavy were my hands. So I had to keep it against my body all the time to make it look thicker. But the rest, if you see the videos, I wish I could show you the videos. But you will see that my body had bloated up and it really looks heavy. And then after we finished that portion, to lose weight, what we had to do was, I went to Austria and I didn't fast, I didn't exercise, I didn't do surgeries, nothing. Just have breakfast in the morning about the kind of food that is good for you. So I took the milk and the sugar out, I brought in the green vegetables and the beetroot, chew your food, 40 times to make it liquid. So from 7 to 2 o'clock, you had nothing else except the breakfast you had. And from 2, you had lunch at 2 and dinner, a small light dinner at 7. And in 14 days, I shrunk back to my normal size.
Wow.
So if I show you the before and after pictures, you will understand how spectacular it is. I do have it and I'm going to put up the making of the video. So that is one thing. I actually had my jaw broken. I actually got my teeth realigned, my original teeth realigned for this film.
What? You had your jaw broken and your teeth realigned for this character?
Yeah.
And then have you re-broken it and put it back to what you were before?
No, not re-broken it. I got it realigned. And it took me 1.5 years. But it was well worth the effort. I learned a lot of things about how teeth can make you look much younger than you are or make you look much... Let me show you that video. I'm going to show it to you.
You can turn the back camera this way.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I don't lose respect for me. This is my actual teeth. 1 second, hold on. There, can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Run it.
Gotcha.
That's how I had it broken. Like I had put wires inside and pulled it out and realigned it.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's how this is my normal teeth.
Wow.
Looks great.
That's dedication. I think most other people would have just been like, that's cool. I'll just pop in some fake teeth.
Yeah, exactly. Earlier you were mentioning space movies from the West, America and whatnot. And my question is, how does Rocketry compare to the likes of First Man, Mission Mongol, and Rocket Boys? Because there's a lot of space stories coming out.
This is a biopic.
Okay.
So right away, it takes the rest of the stories out of play.
Gotcha.
Except
First Man.
The First Man.
Yeah.
And if you ask me in terms of comparisons, and I wish I had as much budget as First Man had, which would probably make my graphics and my fight for the authenticity a little more.
Okay.
But I think I will deliver in terms of the impact.
Okay.
But it would have been great to have a little more budget to make it even more real.
You think you'd pull a James Cameron or George Lucas 20 years from now and be like, okay, I'm going to make the effects even nicer now?
The guys, the thing about, getting out of the industry is you're becoming complacent with your work, right? And you're such a product of one's conditioning that the moment you start failing, you go back to ones that, things that used to work for you. You need to have, let me say, forgive my French, but balls of steel like Cameron, just like James Cameron has and other people, to do enough research to go out of the system and then come back and create something that is aspirational in nature.
Yeah.
So as an actor, I have to have the guts to actually give up on acting and become that director and make sure that I have the ability to come up with something which is new and path-breaking. Question is, do I have the guts? And that only time will tell, or maybe the outcome of Rocketry will tell. But I didn't enjoy direction as much as I enjoy acting. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just going to kind of go take the path away from Rocketry for a second and just ask you some questions about, your career and whatnot. So you've had the opportunity to work with some greats in Indian cinema like Kamal Hassan and Mani Ratnam, Rajkumar Hirani, Amir Khan, Vijay Sethupathi, like the list goes on. Has there been anything that you picked up from working with them that, has impacted you and your craft in any way?
I think Kamal Hassan has been my idol in terms of an actor. The reason I call him that is because take any genre. For an actor generally is known for a couple of genres, at best 2 or 3 that he can pull off. Maybe a Tom Hanks can do that.
Right.
But Kamal sir can do possibly everything. He's a dancer, he's a singer, he can do action. He does that even now. And he does everything with aplomb. So I'm just in awe of his life experiences and his ability to pull off those things. Mani Ratnam gave me my break, the best break that any actor could ask for, and I continued to do 5 films with him back to back. That was like going to an institute and getting a doctorate all in one.
Yeah.
And so you saw working styles, you saw characterizations, you saw how the shooting was done, and of course Rajkumar Hirani and Amir Khan and Amitabh Bachchan, all these guys that I've had the privilege of working, have left a residue in me for sure. The only thing I have learned is that there is no point in becoming like one of them.
Right.
The only path is to find your own unique one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one other actor or actress to go into space with, who would you pick and why?
All right. Can I choose a director instead, or just is it got to be an actor?
Sure.
I would love to go with somebody like James Cameron and then pick his brains, because it's good to be in a place where the phones aren't ringing off the hook all the time.
Right.
And we get to have a nice, quiet, long talk and understand what makes him tick.
That's interesting. That's a good answer.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
That's fun. I don't know if you saw any of our recent reactions to Tanu Weds Manu and Tanu Weds Manu Returns. We watched that recently, and it was a lot of fun, but like the experience was so visceral, so much so I'm going to kind of throw you under the bus a little, but Jaby nearly rage quit the movie, the second one, because he was like, oh my God, why are they doing this? Manu, what are you doing? Obviously their relationship was super complicated. What advice would you, as yourself, give to the character Manu?
India gets judged a lot by Western standards. Okay. And you have to understand that when you come from a place like India, our conditioning is very, very different. We're not very quick to change in terms of either the man-woman power equations or the way the society functions. Okay. And taking that away from India and trying to make it look more like an American society or a Western society is one of our problems. We're oscillating between trying to find who we really are. Tanu Weds Manu, for instance, like there are so many. Let me give you an example. All right, I did this series called Decoupled.
Yeah.
And I was a complete pig in that series, and I'm supposed to be totally anti-woke, and I'm body shaming a woman, and and just not and hiding her from my wife because she was my ex-girlfriend, and she has a big hip right now, and I don't want my wife to see my ex-girlfriend like that. So it's really quite a chauvinistic kind of guy. But in Tanu Weds Manu, here's a girl who calls her husband and says that, look at him, he's growing like a ginger and he's going from every which direction. And that became a huge hit as a dialogue in India. They used to refer that to me. Obviously, hoping that, man can take it. Body shaming a guy is okay.
Yeah.
He can take it.
Right.
But, body shaming a woman is really, really wrong. So when I brought this up to a journalist, she's like, oh, I never thought about it, because guys don't think about it.
Right.
If you call a guy fat, he's fat. He's not, in India, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But so when it comes to Tanu Weds Manu, I know what you're saying. I know how you can rage quit it simply because it just doesn't make sense to where you guys are from.
Right.
But here, it made 250 crores.
Wow.
It was the biggest. So somewhere it's relating to an audience.
Right.
And there's nothing you can say about that. At the end of the day, they seem to find entertainment in it. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but somewhere the director got his equations right.
Right.
It was definitely entertaining.
Oh yeah, the acting was stellar as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm hoping you're talking about me as well.
Yes, of course. So I have a random question. How often do you watch, because I consider it an Indian classic at this point, how often do you watch Three Idiots, and have you seen any of the remakes?
As an actor, I cringe when I see myself on screen.
Okay.
It's really, a bad habit. So I saw it once, and I haven't been able to see any of my films after that ever again.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah. I've seen the Chinese, was it the Brazilian remake, I think?
Okay. It was Mexican.
Spanish. Yeah, Mexican.
Yeah. We saw that one as well.
Yeah, we saw it. It was amusing. And then you realize that it was amusing at best and worst. I mean, that's all I could imagine.
Right.
But they made it in Tamil, which I couldn't see or be part of because I couldn't imagine reliving that role again in a different language. And I haven't seen any of the remakes.
Okay. Because I was reading up about you, and I just wondered, do you miss anything about, because you've traveled a lot in your life, do you miss anything about Alberta, Canada, or England?
Oh my God. Yes, I do. I lived with cowboys over there. I mean, it was one of the most amazing things for an Indian guy to, go there when he's 17 and ride a horse to school and stuff. And it was amazing. Wow. And I developed bonds that that are still strong today after almost close to 40 years.
Wow. I'm
still in touch with them. So yeah, I do miss the sweet bitterness, bite of a chilly Canadian prairie winter. I do. Believe it or not, I'm a vegetarian, and I survived there for a year.
Oh wow!
We're just eating mashed potatoes and stuff, and that's as the best beef country in the world. And at that point in time, they used to be amazed that I didn't eat, and I never did. And I miss I just miss the smells and the sights and the people, and they were amused. So I was called the brown-eyed kid because there was a population of about 4,000 people, and I was the only brown-skinned, brown-eyed guy in the entire horizon.
Wow.
So, so I miss that affection. I do. I mean, I had a great time then.
Throughout your career, you've had the opportunity to play a wide variety of roles, and you've had to pick up some skills, like learning weapons and arms for Vikram Vedha, or, for instance, boxing for Salah Kadus. What's been your favorite new skill to pick up from working on a movie?
I can build a liquid fuel engine with my bare hands right now if you let me.
What? That's cool.
I want to see you do that.
No, I mean, maybe not a perfect one, but I do know where everything goes and how it's built because I learned it from the best.
Yeah. At one point in your life, you were teaching public speaking and personality development. This is according to Wikipedia. Was there any one piece of advice or mantra you found yourself telling most people? And how does that background affect your relationships with colleagues and friends today? One favorite piece of advice that I keep giving people, and it's true at any era or given point of time, is that, try to get past your conditioning and look beyond the obvious. Sometimes our prejudices gets in the way of how we look at people or situations, and we react instinctively out of fear or eagerness or enthusiasm. Sometimes it's very, very helpful and smart to just take a step back, and if something is sounding too good to be true, it probably is. So just look beyond the obvious and you give it a little time, take a little breather, and sometimes you might find a jewel in the most unexpected place. I have found the best of friends in my life who take a bullet for me just because I didn't judge them by the way my instincts were telling me to when I first met them. So just giving the whole relationship or the opportunity a second chance by looking beyond the obvious has been a lot more, beneficial for me than succumbing to my instincts. That's cool.
Wow.
That's a great piece of advice.
Yeah. More people need to know that.
Yeah, exactly. So according to Wikipedia, Madhavan was spotted by a television executive while walking out in Lakwadala in Mumbai and was recruited to feature in Hindi television serials, appearing as a crook in his first venture, Yule Love Stories. How true is this, and how different would your life be right now if it never happened?
It's all true.
Okay.
I believe it or not, I was not interested in acting. I've never, like I said, never been to an acting school or anything, right? So I was literally walking down the store. I had come back from my training in England, as with the defenses. So I had very short hair, and this guy comes up to me and says, "Hey, I'm doing a love story on TV, and it's a love story between a crook who's just escaped from jail and a blind woman on a Christmas Eve." And I'm like, okay. And he says, "You're obviously playing the crook." And I said, "What the fuck is so obvious about it?" So, He's like, no, I mean, you've got your hair cut short and everything, and it looks like a con. And I said, how much money will you pay me? And he said, I'm giving you a break. I don't pay you money.
What?
And he said, yeah, that's how they work in India at that point of time. And then, so I said, great, I'm not doing it. Screw you. I don't have all the time to just to do stuff for free. So I started walking away. And he said, no, hang on. So I'll pay you like 2,500 rupees a night. So I said, a night? What do you have in mind, man? He said, no, the shooting is at night, for crying out loud. So, and he said, so that's how it started, Jaby. I went there and, they told me to stand in one place, wear this clothes, and somebody made me sit down and put makeup on my face. Then they said, get up. And then they said, when we say action, walk from there to there and look here. So I did. And they said, well, when you say action, look here and say these lines. So I did. Then they said, when I say action, just go over to her and hug her. And I said, gladly. And then at the end of the day, I said, give me my $2,000 and I'm done.
Wow.
And that was the beginning of my acting career. Yeah.
Wow.
Your life would be totally different if that guy never spotted you. That's crazy.
That's true. That is true. But strangely, when I wrote my yearbook in Canada when I was 17 years old, and this is how Providence works, and I just happened to see it after 30 years. And in my yearbook, in my photograph, they had these 4 sections like favorite saying, ambition and life, and last scene doing, right? So the last scene doing was playing pranks on friends and foes. And my pet name was Mad, and my favorite saying was holy cow for some reason. And the ambition said to be a rich and famous actor and a jack of all some trades and master of some.
Wow.
Wow.
I don't know why I wrote that. I never worked towards it. I wrote that when I was 17 in my yearbook.
That's crazy.
Isn't that ridiculous?
That is
wow.
crazy.
That's just crazy how it works out, isn't it? Like you must have on some level wanted it, and then it just kind of happened.
I suspect you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it looked like an easy way to get fame, maybe. But at that time, you're rebellious. You just want to write the most ridiculous stuff. Yeah. And I wasn't caring, so I just wrote that. And the next thing lo and behold, guess what?
In reading through your entire life story and profile and whatnot, it made me curious to ask this difficult question because movies are an incredible investment of energy, psychologically and physically. So how do you deal with failures, and how do you deal with successes, and how quickly do you recover from each?
What a lovely question. Thank you for doing the research on me. Yeah. So, hey, I'm incorrigible on the night of the release. Okay. I can't sleep, I can't eat, I can't drink. And then the next day, depending on the outcome, and I'm telling you, deep inside, every actor knows the outcome of the film on the first day he sets foot on the set. And then he just keeps denying the outcome to himself because he thinks you're becoming too senile or too negative. But at the end of the day, he knows. And I know. And when the film releases, I'm in agony. And if it does horribly, then my wife and my family know to let me be that day. I will complain and lament and scream. Yell at everything possible, and my servants know, and they're actually amused now. Let me say my domestic help. They get amused by my anger at that point of time. But it lasts that one day. Okay. I go to sleep. The next day I get up. I'm cleansed. I'm nervous. I'm ready to start all over again. And I'm just richer by the experience and unscathed by the failure. When the film becomes a hit, it's the exact same thing. I'm calling myself the king of the world. I'm boasting to my wife and my friends. They know that phase exists. I'm like, I'm going to change the industry and there's no other like me. And I told you I'm going to do this. I'm incorrigible. I'm actually quite an embarrassment for that one day. And then I have a drink night and I go to sleep. And the next morning, I'm back again with the same nervousness and the excitement and just richer by the experience, but not scathed by the success.
Wow. That's wild. My last question that I'm sure a lot of people have asked you and are curious about, will Tanu wed Manu again?
I think that's water under the bridge. It's no point in beating a dead horse.
They explored everything. It's covered. It's done.
You never know.
It's so difficult to come up with original stuff as it is.
Yeah.
And then with an expectation of a film. See, if it's a sequel of an Avengers series or a superhero, then it's easier to do because you have your template there. Yeah. But with Tanu, it's Manu. It's impossible. Yeah. And I think I'm done with it. I don't want to go back to being Manu now. So
even if it was an adventure in space.
Maybe that would be a different reason. That'd be a different situation completely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it. Y'all, Rocketry comes out July 1st, so keep a lookout for that. Make sure you go see it in theaters and support the film like we will. And thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was lovely talking to you guys, and thank you for doing the research, man. It makes me feel really good.
Cool. Awesome. Take care. Have a good one.
Take care.
Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.